Okay, so you clicked this video because you want to know how to make money with Elliott Wave theory, okay? Now, you're probably thinking, does this crap even work? I don't know, right? That's what most people are thinking, right? They're very skeptical of this, okay? Which is good. They need to be skeptical in the market, especially with social media, all right? But before we actually get into how to make money with Elliott Wave theory, we're going to actually look at some proof of work and proof of concepts to actually see if the strategy works. Because obviously, I think most of you already know, especially if you've been following me for a long time, that it works. But for the new people, okay, let's just straight off the bat look at this, okay? So first off, we can look at LOI, okay? Said it was bearish, so on, and then we just absolutely dumped, right? Now, again, Nimbus, same thing, called it for a crash. We ended up crashing to the buy zone. Same thing with Google. We marked out the same wave 3 target. We ended up going up there, rejecting it, and then falling off. Netflix, same thing. These are posts made on X publicly, like with real dates. Like there's no Photoshop going on here, nothing, right? Same thing for Netflix. Crashed to our buy zone. Actually, speaking of Netflix, this is it. This is it right now. Okay, from that buy zone, that exact same buy zone that I told everyone to buy at here. Okay, so look at the date. Look at the number. Buy zone is a little bit below 75, which was right here. 74 actually was a little bit 75, the lower end of 75. Okay, so absolutely amazing buy zone hold. And then from that exact buy zone, we ripped around 30%. Okay, now obviously you don't buy as soon as we hit it, but that's just how much we have gone up from that buy zone. Okay, ASDS again, wave 5 target hit, rejection, yada yada. We kept crashing. Yep, ASDS, Zeus, post on August 30th, calling for a massive bull run, and there we go. We run to the purple zone. So I could keep on going on and on and on and on, right? SoFi rejection for that wave 3 target, end up going back down to the buy zone, which is we're sitting at right now, right? So I can keep going on forever, okay? This strategy works. It's very obviously that it works, but now the question is why you clicked on this video. That is, how do you actually make money using Elliott Wave theory, okay? So obviously, for those who don't know, this is Elliott Wave theory. It is a cycle trading strategy for wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then an ABC correction after, okay? Now, this is a really good strategy for catching trends, right? For the higher time frames, like on the weekly, right? We're not going to sit there and do this on the 4 hour, on the 1 hour, the 5 minute. It's not a day trading strategy. You can use options on it, but mainly shares, right? So, but this is how to actually draw Elliott Wave theory. This is how to make money on it. So I'm going to assume that you already know a lot about Elliott Wave theory, and now you're trying to actually make money on it, or maybe make money on other people's charts, right? Other people's charts like mine, right? How do you actually make money from this? Okay, so I posted this nonstop, right? But there is a checklist. Okay, so the first checklist that's here is going to be macro or economy, and also SPY slash QQQ. Okay, so obviously I can't spell, by you saw macro. So obviously, um, if if SPY crashes, QQQ crashes due to a macro event or due to an economy event, that usually not saying a black swan event, but maybe a bad macro is lining up and then SPY and QQQ crash. Okay, that is the most important thing when it comes to making money, right? It does not matter if the chart that you're buying, like Nimbus, is super bullish. If the macro and the economy does not line up and SPY starts crashing, the stocks that you buy will also crash. Even if the chart is an A plus setup, the best setup you can buy with the best company, it's going to die. Okay, so if the macro and the economy does not line up, then you cannot make money, which we'll get more into that here in a second. Okay, now the second one is rotation. Okay, so obviously you need to choose a stock that is that's hyped, that's in rotation with the market, right? Which we'll get more into, okay? But that could be sectors, right? What sector is outperforming the market right now? Okay, data centers and AI, and then semiconductors, right? So those are the stocks you're going to want to be in, right? So what's not in rotation? Nike. Nike's not in rotation. It's a retail store that's super undervalued, really good stock, really good company, but not in rotation. So you're going to get burnt like I did. Now, if we go to number 3, this would be chart analysis like Elliott Wave theory, okay? So Elliott Wave theory is third because obviously a bullish chart does not necessarily mean anything if the macro and it's not in rotation. Okay, but you can get by just choosing number three or knowing charts analysis and nothing else. But it's not the best, right? It's better to know the top two, of course, right? Like you can't make money only knowing number one, right? You can't make money knowing only number two, right? Or you can, but it's not really unless you're a long-term investor. No. Okay, so really, to perfect this, you need all three of these. Now, number four, which we're not going to really talk about, is fundamentals. Okay, the fundamental view of a company, right? I don't really do fundamentals as long as they're profitable. They have good earnings, then I don't really care. But you can use a fundamental view to get your stock in that sector to choose. Like for example, right, data centers is in rotation, right? So if we're trying to long data centers, we got Nimbus, we got IREN, right? So now which one is better? Now you can look at a fundamental view and see which company is a better buy. To me, doesn't really matter. I think Nimbus chart looks a little bit better, but you can also use fundamentals to get that conviction and choose that ticker that you want, right? So let's start off with macro and economy, okay? And this is basically just a big master class when it comes to this. Like I've been explaining this nonstop, but this is going to go full in detail, right? But macro and economy, right? So what do I fully mean by this, right? So if we go down to SPY, okay, SPY has been absolutely chopping since October. Since October, we have been completely flat sideways movement with this bearish RSI divergence, right? So if we look at the SPY chart, it is immediately already bearish, right? If we look at QQQ, also this, well, actually QQ was bullish until we just now today lost the trend line to the downside, right? So if this can hold this close below and hold this retest, then we will be pushing lower to around $500, right? Minimum target of 556, 557, sorry. Yeah, 7. So that would be our minimum target, but we're going to go lower. So right now, SPY and QQQ chart is sideways, and it is showing some weakness, right? But now let's look at the macro, okay? So macro DXY. Okay, the DXY is showing a bottom, right? We are bottoming here. The DXY is not going to go lower. It's going to go higher more than anything. And if this does go higher, that would be very, very bad for the economy. Given that one, like if we start to rally and we really do rallies like 106 really fast, kind of like how we did in July of 2024, then the market is going to absolutely hate that, given that 1 to 3 month delay, right? So, and this is, I'm not going to teach you how to actually do macro, but this is just showing you the basics, right? So DXY goes up, bad for the economy, right? But that's not the main one. Oil is the biggest thing right now, right? DXY hasn't gone up yet, right? But when it comes to oil has been pushing higher and higher. We're up 12% today, and this week alone we're up 35% for oil, which is insane due to this Iran war, okay? But the main target has not been hit yet. So when oil goes up, obviously inflation goes up, gas prices go up, it hurts the economy in a negative way, and SPY tends to take this as really, really bad news. So when SPY is showing weakness already, like the chart we just went over, then when this oil stuff starts soaring, it will not like that, which is why we're seeing it absolutely crash. So if you can't look at the SPY chart, look at the QQQ chart, look at the dollar, look at oil, look at any other macro thing, maybe it's jobs report, maybe it's something else, inflation, whatever, it's interest rate Fed, right? If you can't look at this and say that, okay, SPY and QQQ actually looks really bearish, maybe I'm going to lay off on my buys for the market, right? If you can't do that, you're going to get absolutely burnt, okay? So now let's go back to Nimbus, okay? Now, what is number 2 on that list? Rotation, okay? This one's really simple. Again, what's in rotation? What is outperforming? Okay, you know what the best way to do this is? You go to on TradingView. You go to the very top left where it says compare or add symbol. You add SPY to whatever stock you're trying to look at. Okay, new price scale. Okay, now when we see this, right, Nimbus started running when SPY runs. When SPY pulls back, like here, like we did in February, Nimbus did absolutely crash, right? But when SPY, and let's actually change this to a candles, okay, because this looks a little bit better. But now when SPY actually started running, right, so we formed a bottom in April and we started running much, much higher, okay, Nimbus absolutely soared along with SPY. Now, when SPY did end up consolidating back in October and started chopping and looking more weak and bearish, Nimbus absolutely died, right, because now SPY, the macro, did not line up for the bull case, okay? So it's almost like that trend is now almost gone, right? So an important thing to know when it comes to rotation is that whenever a stock or an asset class is in rotation, when SPY does roll over, that rotation sector is going to get absolutely killed, okay? Like, and especially if it's a high beta stock. Like, Nimbus is a high beta stock. When SPY does roll over, consolidates like we said it would in October, then Nimbus is going to go really, really low, right? I mean, we saw a 48% decline from the all-time high to the most major low, while SPY is completely sideways, right? So SPY hasn't even rolled over yet. It just showed weakness, right? So when weakness happens, the assets that are in rotation are going to fold over really hard. Just like when SPY does actually go higher, they're going to absolutely soar much, much higher, right? So it is very, very important to understand macro and where SPY is headed, right? Now, again, rotation is just as important, right? Because if you held something like Nike that's not done rotation like I did, then you get burnt. And same thing like with CMG, same thing with Lululemon, right? Same thing with UNH maybe. Same thing with many names, right? That's not in rotation, okay? So make sure they are in rotation. Now, um, so yeah, so if you basically look at the macro, choose a stock that's in rotation, you can basically make money right there without even using chart analysis, right? You still are going to need chart analysis to identify if SPY is showing weakness or QQQ is showing weakness. But if you can figure out if one of those are showing weakness, then you can figure out if you should buy now or you should wait, okay? Now, let me remove this off of my chart. Now, what was on the third list? Chart analysis? Yeah, so chart analysis. So when I mean by chart analysis, I just mean Elliott Wave like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this wedge, falling wedge, buy zone, technical now like the support, resistance, indicators, RSI, stuff like that. Just basic technical analysis, okay? So this you can get by just knowing Elliott's Wave without knowing anything else. But personally, I wouldn't do that. Obviously, I would try to learn every single thing I possibly can. Definitely learn all three. The only thing you don't really need is fundamentals, which is the fourth one, right? So you don't need to learn fundamentals, right? So now, but we're looking at this. Those are the top three that I'm really looking at, right? That really matter. So let's look at Nimbus right here, right? Let's go over an example trade that we could take. Okay, Nimbus. Okay, so Nimbus, the chart looks extremely bullish, right? We already had an A, B, C, D, E. We had the rejection. We're holding a higher low, right? It looks like we should have broke out today or this week or broke out next week or going to break out next week, right? So now the question is this a buy? Okay, I did have a started position, but I did end up exiting full position today just because of that rejection and how bad QQQ and SPY is about to roll over. Okay, so and also with oil stocks absolutely just soaring or oil soaring. Sorry. Now, right here, Nimbus has a bullish chart. Okay, a bullish chart looks like this is literally an A++ setup. Amazing, right? Other than this rejection. So if you remove that rejection we just had this week, this is like an A++ setup. Okay, but now again, let's look at the checklist: macro and economy, SPY, QQQ. QQQ is rolling over. We closed below the trend line. SPY is rolling over. Economy, macro is not good now with oil absolutely soaring, and the DXY could be showing a longer term rally. Okay. So right now, SPY does not support this case with Nimbus longs, okay? Now, rotation. Is Nimbus in rotation? Yes, absolutely it is, okay? So right now, Nimbus passes the rotation check. It passes the chart analysis check. I don't do fundamentals, but if you're a fundamental guy, then you can look at Nimbus and look at the fundamentals. So the only thing stopping Nimbus from absolutely soaring to 180 for our Wave 5 target is the macro economy SPY and QQQ chart, okay? Which immediately kills it all because that is the most important one, right? It does not matter how bullish Nimbus is. If QQQ and SPY does roll over, Nimbus will absolutely die, right? So that's basically the list. That's my new system that I'm now putting in place to actually looking at when I'm going to buy a position, enter a position, right? So again, let's actually go over to that SPY chart, right? So when we bottomed down in April, that's when the DXY also started going up. The bearish divergence went away. We held some support. I already removed it now, but we did have a support zone there. So once we did hold that support back in April, we had that manipulation leg right here. It was a very obvious bounce at support and bottom, which then signaled this massive rally for SPY, which then would tell you to enter in whatever was in rotation, right? Versus now, bearish divergence, rolling over, bearish wedge breakout, held the retest, rejected. Now we're dumping, QQQ, broke to the downside of this wedge, daily rejected to it. Not a good look at all. So now we're just waiting for these to pull back and hit support, and then we're looking to add to positions. Now, if you want to actually take advantage of this play, or if you don't want to sell your stocks, then you can enter what's called a hedge, which could be many things. Okay, basically a hedge is something that goes the opposite of the market. So the market pulls back like QQQ. You can enter SQQQ, which is a short on QQQ, and then you can make a lot more money, right? I'm using this as a hedge. I'm also using FNGD as a hedge, right? So FNGD is basically short on the MAG 7. SQQ is basically a short on QQQ. So these are all hedges for when SPY and QQ does roll over, right? So hopefully you learned something in this video. Those are like the new systems I am looking at. So I decided, well, since I'm going to start using it, and so I was like, well, might as well come out here and give it to y'all for free, right? And I've been preaching about this because I see so many people suffer in the market, right? And if you're losing money in the market, you can't succeed in it right now because this is a very, very difficult market right now than it was in 2025, right? This market right now is very, very difficult. So you need this system to succeed. If you're not winning, then you are missing something on this system. Okay, on that checklist, you are failing at something. Either your charts are not right, either you're not reading the macro and economy properly, or you are not getting the right rotation sector in there, right? Because the market can absolutely rally. Like if you have a bullish macro, SPY super bullish for rallying, right, and then chart analysis is also on point, but you're missing that rotation, you can very well lose. Like you won't lose a lot, maybe you might break even or small loss, right? Or you could lose a ton, right? Look at UNH, right? It's not in rotation. I am in it, but I am up a decent amount on it, right? But that's the checklist. Study it, study it, study it, study it, right? Practice, practice, practice. Like you need to review the market. You need to treat this like a business, like a job, okay? Not just something you do on the side for fun to invest, right? This is your money. This is how you actually build wealth, okay, in the markets. So I'll see you next video, and have a good weekend.